All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is a new series I'm going to be starting on my YouTube channel called One Flask Reviews. It's something I've kind of always wanted to do. I've always been big into movies. I've tried to watch as many movies as I can throughout the years. It's actually where I met my wife is in the movies when we both worked there. So this little series that I'm going to just be starting, I'm going to be taking, I go to the movies. I have this flask with me full of whatever I want. I drink it during the movie, and then I come back immediately and review it while drinking another flask. Today, we are actually going over Kraven the Hunter, the so-called last of the Sony saga of villains. It's in the same universe, apparently, as Madam Web, Venom, Morbius. Just really fun villains of the Spider-Man universe, if we're being honest, besides Madam Web, but like it never took off. It's been actually really bad. I mean, Morbius itself got trolled into trying to do a re-release and made almost no money again on a re-release. And so it's kind of been like the troll Marvel universe that we've had. But I mean, it's fun to watch if you know what you're going into is going to be bad. So getting into it, Kraven obviously released here in December a week ago. It's Aaron Taylor Johnson's I actually thought he was a good Kraven. I enjoyed him a lot. He looked good for Kraven. His outfit unfortunately wasn't used the way I wanted it to be used, but he did well. Another notable film he's been in that I've really only seen him in is Bullet Train. He's Tangerine. He does well on that, but Kraven, he did good. Overall, Aaron, I think, played Kraven the way you'd want a Kraven to play it almost. He's also coming up in 28 Years Later, a film that was actually made, it's a sequel to a film made back in 2002 or 3 called 28 Days Later. So, very curious about that to see where he goes. He's becoming a really cool actor. I'm actually going to probably watch more movies that he's been in lately. We also have Fred Hetchinger, I believe is his name, which is Kraven's brother. Recently, he's actually had a very fun month for himself, or the very fun past 2 months, because he was also one of the Roman emperors in Gladiator 2. He was the smaller brother, which was really cool. And I kept trying to put his name to what I've seen him in lately, and that was it. I'm glad I found that out. Ariana DeBois, she is also in this as Calypso, another one of Kraven's lackeys. But I'll get more into her later. I have quite a few words about her. And then we also have the amazing Russell Crowe. I mean, he could be in almost anything, and I'll watch it. I have enjoyed Russell Crowe in Gladiator and plenty other films. It's fun that, we got a Gladiator and Gladiator 2 actor in this. But diving right into it, I just want to start with the good things. The good things about Kraven. It had a lot of cool action sequences, a lot of primal action sequences. Kraven, if you don't know, he's a hunter, hence the name Kraven the Hunter, but he doesn't hunt with guns. He's been one of my favorite villains in the Spider-Man series. Just in general, this is the second major IP we've gotten out of Kraven. Hence, Spider-Man 2 that came out on PS5 a year ago. He was one of the main villains, which was really cool. I think a lot of people started liking Kraven that aren't very familiar with Marvel. I'm not saying I'm a Marvel geek and nerd. I've read my fair share of comics. I've done my fair share of research over it. I'm not what I would say a basic MCU person. Don't get me wrong. I love all the MCU movies. But I definitely know a lot about their other stories inside the comics. It was really cool seeing how he did some of his hunts in this movie. Kraven did. A lot of unique kills. Spoilers, obviously, coming up in this video. A lot of unique kills when they got to his home base. A lot of, true bear trap. And honestly, a bear trap, logs falling on people with spikes, everything like that. It really felt like we were watching Return of the Jedi on Endor, with how the Ewoks started killing the Empire. A lot of those type of kills in that movie. I mean, he pulled out a tiger's tooth and stabbed someone. Started really good. It started really good and I think ended really good. The middle was awful. His brother, that chameleon that Fred played, I really enjoyed that character. I enjoyed that comic character, Chameleon. It's a very pivotal part of Kraven's arsenal in when they go on these hunts, but they didn't use Chameleon at all. They tease that this guy can mimic voices and is very good at doing being and talking and singing like other people, but they didn't use him. They kind of tease yeah, I could do this. He gets captured and Chameleon gets captured and it's like he uses another guy's voice, but in front of that same guy, and it was just whatever. We're done. And it kept teasing for me that they were going to use him in a way to help Kraven, and all he was there for was to get his butt beat the entire time. It was awful. I did not enjoy Chameleon as I thought I would, because he is a very unique character. I think you could have done way more with that, but just wasn't enough. So yes, Chameleon, the character itself, good. The way they used him, bad. They could have done way more. The story was awful. That hurt a lot watching. It did the fun little thing of, hey, I'm gonna be Kraven. I'm gonna show this really cool scene that doesn't explain anything at all other than I look like an animal, like climbing on walls and stuff like that at the very beginning to go fight this, or to go find this really bad mafia boss lord, the gang leader, whatever, that's selling guns outside of a prison in Russia. It was bad. I mean, it didn't really give us much other than, yeah, he can climb on Kraven can climb on walls and like dodge any machine gun that Russians are shooting at him at any time. It's just, you see it and you don't want to believe it, is kind of how I came across it. I mean, I chuckled a couple times during this just because of the sheer atrocity that it was at the beginning. And then, as always, when we get these villain origin stories, we get that 45-minute flashback of when he's a child that shows kind of like how his upbringing. Like, I understand it could have been cut down to 15, 20 minutes. It prolonged it. They showed him at a school in New York to be picked up. They could have just started it with them saying, "Oh, your mom died. All right, your father's taking over now," and blah blah blah. Russell Crowe being the father, who is also his own little boss in London, and Kraven's supposed to take over the family business. It goes over that really quickly, yet it felt like it took forever to go over it, which was kind of, it is what it is. I hated that part. I mean, and then we get the very, very young introduction of Calypso on the African safari. No one knows. All it has is that Calypso comes in there and she's playing tarot cards. I know she's supposed to be some type of like enchantress. I know, I mean, she's always been part of her crew, or Kraven's crew, and some type of enchantress. But they don't explain anything about her going back. If this was going into like a Spider-Man series, I could see Calypso actually having a role, but like they knew they weren't going to make another one. It really did feel like they made it to where there was going to be another one, but with how bad these movies have been lately, you had to have known this wasn't going to get a sequel. This took forever to come out. They filmed it, I think, 4 different times, it felt like, was what I heard and looked and was doing some research on. But she's a psychopathic woman. She knows, but she doesn't have any of those powers in this. Like, that's what Calypso's supposed to be. Some like kind of a witch, but she wasn't. All she did, cool little tarot cards, and gave Kraven this little bottle that made him like animalistic and primal and had all of his more super strength. But that was it. Other than that, she's a lawyer in this, and they made him. Another thing I've hated about these types of movies and all these villain movies we're getting is they make them out to seem like they're good guys. They're anti-heroes. Kraven is not an anti-hero. He is a villain. He kills people straight up. Yes, his big thing is it's the hunt of people. In this movie, he's hunting bad people, but all he wants to do is hunt. And it's, if you've ever read that short story, The Most Dangerous Game, it is very similar to that. That's one of my favorite short stories in English growing up was The Most Dangerous Game, which is why I found reading comics, I really loved what Kraven was, as Spider-Man also being someone that's really cool, and constant battles between Kraven and Spider-Man. I love the new video game that came out, but he's not a good guy. But so stop making villains good guys. That's all. Another cool villain that I haven't really seen before was the Foreigner. Foreigner I thought was a really unique character that they could have done more with. He was played, excuse me, he was played by Christopher Abbott. He was really good in it. I love the Foreigner's unique powers. You kind of like stare at his eyes, and then you get put into like a hypnotic state. I actually haven't seen really anything else he's ever been in. Looking it up, you could look him up on IMDb as well. Like, I haven't seen any of these big movies. He's been in a lot of miniseries, but I mean, him as a character, as a hitman, was really cool. Really, really good use of him. But he kind of just, they don't go into his powers. It's, oh yeah, he takes off his glasses, goes 1, 2, 3, and then the guy he's looking at dies. It looks like he's like stopping time. I mean, yes, he puts him in a hypnotic state. Looking into the comics, it's supposed to be about 10 seconds, but he's only using 3, which I'm not gonna, it's whatever. But he doesn't use, they don't use him. He shows up a couple times. He's hired by the Rhino, and don't even get me started on Rhino. That was awful. The main villain of this, but and then he just dies to a bow and arrow from Calypso, which again, Calypso doesn't really hunt like that. She gets in your mind. She doesn't shoot a bow and arrow. She isn't like Kraven. It was, sorry, I'm getting worked up just thinking about it. And so, just taking a little break real quick to refresh. Another thing is, I'm done with these origin stories that don't have them wearing their comic outfit. That's been getting on my nerves. All the trailers tease Kraven in his lion's mane. That big ripped buff guy. You see it at the last 10 seconds of the movie. He puts it on the last 10 seconds. Awful. You want to see him hunt in his outfit, or when he normally hunts without anything like his vest on. But you don't see it. He's not sitting on his crown. And I know, yeah, it's his origin story. He doesn't have his whole group of people that hunt or set up the hunts for him, but still, it doesn't even tease that. Ugh. And then also the Rhino, just I hate what they did with the Rhino. It was awful. Rhino's supposed to be like this big guy, big Russian dude that's really cool. He went to the whole what's his name? Miles Warren, the Jackal, the guy that can turn people kind of into animals, stuff like that during Spider-Man's what was called the Clone Saga comic book run. But whatever, he has to wear this little strap to make sure he's human. All again, when he takes it off, he turns into a rhino. Yeah, that's painful. But Rhino's supposed to be a big, beefy animal that comes and just charges in, and he was scrawny, which was awful. Way off. They didn't use him. He was a just fidgety nerd the entire time. I mean, he introduced kind of well, but then as you get to know him, it's awful. This movie's awful. It's so bad. And I don't talk bad about movies a lot. This movie I was going into, I know it's not going to be good, but it's damn, the bar was set low, but it went so low that it was doing the tango with the devil down there. So I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to think of during this movie. But overall, out of 10, probably a 3 or 4 in my book. I mean, it's a movie I would say you can make a drinking game out of with all your friends, and you watch it at home, and it's a fun time, and you're like, oh, let's make fun of this. That's when you can enjoy it. But it's not even as bad as what Morbius was, to where it's so bad we can get it back in theaters. It actually feels like they thought this was going to be a good movie, unlike Morbius. And that's kind of what hurts, because Kraven is one of my favorite villains in the Marvel series, in the Spider-Man series, and one of my favorite Sinister Six members and everything of that, but they flopped on this one. We did get some cool Easter eggs in the movie, like the Daily Bugle being in there, the references to New York all the time. Obviously, Miles Warren changing Kraven's brother into Chameleon at the very end, but it's just all around awful. If you have to spend money on it, I don't recommend it. But I mean, I guess it was good at 1:20 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. I had my Flask, so that was good. But to Kraven, this is not good. Not good. Just like my whiskey flavor, it's not good. But I appreciate everyone watching today. If you do like the series, obviously leave like it, leave a comment, please subscribe. I'm gonna try to do this. This is my New Year's resolution. So any movie I see through the rest of this year, it's 12/18/2024 right now. Excuse me. So I have 3 or 4 more movies I'm going to probably watch by the end of the week. I still got War of Rohirrim to watch. I'm going to go see Sonic and Mufasa this weekend. So same thing, One Flask Reviews. I really do appreciate you watching. Again, leave a like and comment on the video. Thank you so much.